Hey there, welcome to Lunar Lunch Break. I'm Evelyn Rose, and these are my office hours opportunity for Q&As, AMAs, anything dealing with tarot, witchcraft, spirituality in general. Um, you may notice I'm wearing the headscarf today, not usually my norm, but I'm in need of a haircut. It's doing the poofy thing. So I've had people come in and ask questions about the headscarves in the past. So just want to put that out there front and center. Um, Usually, if I'm wearing these, there are three possibilities. One is I'm in need of a haircut because I can't stand the poofiness, and especially when it gets to that point where like no amount of hair product will keep it down. I call it the Zoolander puff because it's like, or Zoolander poof, like when he's not wearing any hair product and like it's just all kinds of like just out there. My hair does that at a certain length, and so all the parts that usually get buzzed off are currently sticking up, and here comes a cat. Um, so that said, let me move the keyboard before she mutes me again awkwardly. Uh, so that's one possibility. The other one is just me not wanting to do anything with hair product. Um, so just kind of having a bit of a lazy hair day. And then the third possibility is I'm busy doing a lot of hands-on stuff like clearing out closets and that kind of that like I'm doing a lot of stuff that involves looking down and don't feel like fighting with my hair every 5 seconds. So I just throw a scarf on. So I have two different types. I have this kind where it's like really down there, longer, and then I have the shorter versions. And those usually let a little bit of hair poke out. Um, and so with the shorter headbands, usually I don't get too many comments. It clearly is a headband and I'm just trying to get my hair out my way. But when I wear this, I have all kinds of people ask me if it's a religious thing, if it's a specific cultural thing. And honestly, these headbands, no. They're just, they serve practical purposes and they're pretty. And I have so many variety of them. I can match them to most of my outfits. Um, just just my thing, that's all. Anyway, all that said, poor cat is just sitting here, wants all the attention. Um, Not a whole lot, I don't think, since last week in terms of news. Of course, there was the Hela story release, which I'll talk about again at the end for anybody who missed that. I am working behind the scenes, updating some language and stuff. I recently, um, so those of you who don't already know this about me, I'm a huge like Marie Forleo fangirl and have been since like eons ago, it feels like. um, Even before I knew that I was definitely going to go the entrepreneur route myself. I had stumbled on some of her videos and her email list, and I remember being like, I couldn't figure out what it was about her that I love so much. And then I realized it's because she says all those things that I should have heard growing up as a child and did not. So she definitely speaks to my Sag rising, my Sag uh, Mars, and that very optimistic and like cheerleading aspect that I tend to do for other people. It's something that I didn't receive a lot of my for myself. And so she is like, I don't know if she has a Mars and Sagittarius as well, but I would not be surprised. Um, Anyway, so I, for years, have been following her, taking her coursework, her B school, all that stuff. Can't recommend highly enough. Again, I did the B school during my first thoughts of like, oh, you know what? I think I will start a business. And then I was like, I'm not ready. I'm going to go teach instead. Um, I had taken her B school then, and I've repeated it many times since. Um, and so I already have a lot of that style and that flavor. So she recently released um, some AI tools that help with, and I know some of us within this community are very anti AI. So before you tune me out entirely on that statement, so these tools are not the I have a super simple question, so let me just like ask it of the AI and burn through like half the river. Um, these are more targeted, kind of like I can just run through a piece of stuff and see how well I'm applying those things that I've learned versus not learned. So it's kind of more of a learning tool for me. But you can use it where you lean on it more heavily, but my style is definitely more of a give me some ideas, give me some feedback. And when I one of my downsides is uh to being one of these cheerleading types is a lot of people who talk to me tend to not give me the more critical feedback. Um, when feedback of a critical nature does come, it's usually softened so much that my squirrel brain totally like misses the underlying element to it. So I sometimes need that like hardcore, give it to me straight. How'd I do? And what can I do better? And so I was using the tool all last week, for a good half of last week. Um, there was a little bit of struggle point getting accessing the tools initially, and then once I got into it and was able to use it, I was using it most days of the week, and just kind of running all my stuff through. And I wanted to like, I had like one of those like the emoji where there's a smile and there's just a single tear escaping the eye. That's kind of how it felt. Like I knew that something wasn't right and that there were tweaks needed and I couldn't place it. I've been tinkering with it from, over the past year and I just can't seem to find that little something that I'm missing. Um, and running anyway, running my copy or my text through these, it felt that analysis, that copy analysis, um, it felt like going back to elementary school and you get that one really critical teacher with the red pen going through your essay and marking everything up, all the punctuation you missed, all the stuff. It's like it had that feeling where it wasn't everything was still good, which is why, it makes sense that I would get positive feedback. But the critical feedback that this tool was able to offer me was like, here's all those missing pieces from my learning that I was not applying or wasn't applying very well. And so huge learning opportunity for me. And again, if you're one of my anti-A folks, and if you're like me and very concerned about the environmental impacts, this is not a thing that I'll be using on a daily basis. This is not a thing that I'll be leaning on for every single thing I write or every single thing I post. This is just that big. This is the more responsible for anyone who read my blog post. Forget which month it was, but it was earlier this year about ethical AI use within, spiritual businesses and things of that nature. One of the things in there is about balancing it. Um, there's not a need to necessarily exclude it entirely. I know a lot of people do jump on that anti AI bandwagon and then forget that about 90% of the things that they use every day relies on AI. So it's like they're not necessarily having that hard stance doesn't help us put into place the ethical uses. So that's why I say definitely stay part of the conversation. For me, mine is mainly just these kinds of purposes for editing, for helping me, get out of my hyper focus blinders and see what I'm missing. Because I will feel that I'm missing something, but I won't necessarily be able to pick up on exactly what it is. And that's kind of where I still lean a little on AI. And of course, I've mentioned it in that same article. When it comes to the blog, if sometimes I need visuals and I don't have a stock image or photograph on hand, for what I need, and not being an artist and not having the budget to hire an artist on the regular for like last minute, like, can you hurry up and make this like in, stat. Um, I tend to use Canva's Dream Lab, which surprisingly, I'm gonna go out on a limb and call that AI. They don't. Canva identifies that as their Dream Lab is like like it's an image generator. And then there's the Canva AI. I don't use the Canva AI. I've tinkered with it in the past, and I find it's usually a dumber than a box of rocks. It's like it wants to help me through what I already know how to do. So it's kind of like that's a worthless tool for me. but their dream lab, it's a straight image generator. And I'm going to go out on a limb and call that AI because in my mind it is. This goes back to that in that anti-AI camp is that disconnect between what actually is and isn't AI, and there are things that are being used every day by those same individuals that they have no idea, um, or may not have any idea that that AI is involved in some way in those things. So the Canva Dream Lab, I'm just gonna say is AI, but it's an image generator. Um, Anyway, so I use that for helping me with visuals on the website. So like you'll notice on my website at the bottom, I do have that little disclaimer in there that some visuals include it. If you're ever curious, just look at the alt text. If you use any sort of screen readers and things like that, it should automatically read that alt text for you. If not, there's a way to I always accidentally pull it up, but there is a way on a web page. Now I gotta open up a thingy so I can remember what I'm talking about here. Yeah, so when you right click and inspect, I'm not sure if Macs have a different way to do it, but when you inspect the page, um, you just have it inspect the part where there's an image and it'll give you the alt text. And I always start it off with if it is a stock image, if it is, well, I try to remember if it's a stock image, if it's an actual photograph, I will try to say photograph of, stock image of, um, but the AI ones are always AI generated image. And then it goes into a description of what that image is. So the alt text is where that designation is there for those of you who are hardcore, want to know if something is or isn't AI. Um, of course, the blog post about AI, ethical AI use, I had a lot of fun purposefully using those AI images that are obviously AI generated. They're like that terrible. So I had a lot of fun poking fun at those. The alt text and the captions on those is half the joy of having put that article together. Um, Anyway, so I digress. Speaking of that article, that is one that because I'm now using these tools, I'll be updating. I think I recently added a statement in there about how at the time I wrote it, I had been using DeepSeek fairly regularly for like steadily for like about a year. And then almost like within a month of me publishing that, it DeepSeek kind of started to get a little screwy, and the what they call AI drift, which is where the AI is training AI essentially. So um, the AI models when they are searching the internet aren't always like they're not they're going to go off of the information that's there that's relevant. It's not necessarily going to sit there and separate between what's AI generated and what's not human made. And so it will um, inevitably include AI written sources within that research. And so that's AI training AI. And so the drift was getting really painfully obvious. So I had stopped using it. And then I tried to kind of go back in and see if, and test the waters again. And now, like DeepSeek, it's, unless I explicitly in every single prompt remind it to give me a response in English, it will default to Chinese, or Mandarin. So I am unable to, make that worth my time for any practical purposes. So like, and that's not even getting into the drift issue. So I have stopped using DeepSeek for those reasons. It's just become impractical for the purposes I was using it for, which again was mostly editing, brainstorming, um, verifying, like fact checking. When there were things like I know, but I want to double check and make sure I'm not like having a memory hallucination. Um, and so, yeah, so I'm tinkering around with different things for those purposes. I could definitely say, for the love of goodness, do not use Duck AI. That is like the worst of the AI models I've seen. It has given such horrifically awful tips, strategies. It does not know how to reason, has no logic. So if you ask it a question, it's going to just like make all kinds of assumptions that I'm like, even the most presumptive of people know how to uh, remember to ask certain questions like, hey, did you remember to turn it on? It's like the tech support, is the device plugged in? Um, and that kind of stuff. It's so you just don't use it. Don't, please. I gave them that feedback and told them they need to just get rid of it, drop it. And of course their search assistant is also connected with that. So don't trust the search AI summaries. Please don't. Um, but again, I have not tried every single model out there. My biggest thing is try to be ethical with it. Don't rely on it for everything. If there's an option to shut off AI options and things that you don't need, so like doing a web search, and if you're avoiding the AI summaries, if you can have it default to where it doesn't automatically generate a response, do that. Those are ways to help reduce those negative, harmful impacts of AI. Anyway, I have prattled on for like 15 minutes about this. So we're going to go ahead and switch gears. If you are new here, if you've never um, had the opportunity to join in one of my Q&A AMA sessions, the best way to get your question answered here live on the air, and I forgot to turn the sound on my phone off, so that just totally 100% squirrel brained me, literally just to tell me that I'm actively live streaming like I don't know. Okay, there we go. Now it is silent and it will not make noises at me. Okay. So if you, you gotta get, I am so squirrel brained. If you tuned in last week or you watched the replay last week, notice that I will circle and go on tangents and circle back around, and so a comment pops up in the chat and I just like completely forget what I'm talking about. I eventually get back on track. But yeah, expect squirrel brain, and the cat will, also be here periodically reminding me that she's here. She may mute me, in which case, please let me know that I am muted. Just drop a thing. Even if all you do is say muted in the chat, I will know what you're talking about. I've moved the keyboard, so hopefully she does not do that to me. She's done it enough times now that it's incredibly embarrassing. I usually try to make funny jokes in the descriptions in the whatchamacallums in the show, in the video descriptions, the timestamps. There you go. I try to crack some jokes in the timestamps. Anyway, so if you have a question at any point in time, again, dealing with tarot, witchcraft, spirituality, religion, any of those things, feel free to drop it in the chat. I prioritize any questions that come in through the chat. That said, if there aren't any questions in the chat, I will answer questions from my running list. I think we still have a couple pages left. Yeah, it's about two. Yeah, it goes over a little bit, but that's just because of how I have my document formatted. So roughly 2 pages worth of questions. Some of them I've answered and the cat has muted me, so they stayed on my list. And some of them have been answered previously, or they're slightly different from previous ones. So I kind of try to, if it's a question I've already answered was asked outside of the live streams, I usually deprioritize those only because they've been asked before. But if you ask me, if you're not sure if a question's been answered before in a prior session and you pop it in the chat, I will still answer whatever is in the chat. Always prioritize the chat. Yeah, okay. That said, if the cat is not going to mute me, what are we doing, cat? I swear she is purposefully sitting as close to the keyboard as possible. Have it like tucked under from my little ledge here, and it's like she knows it's there, and she's like, I want to mute you so you stop talking and pet me more. All right, let's see. Today's questions, let's see. Okay. Ooh, I love this question. So today I'm gonna focus on some questions that were asked specifically for me, so not just generalized questions about these topics, but more specific to like my approach to things or my experience with things. So I think I'm gonna try to focus on these questions today. So this question was, where do you draw the line between guidance and dependency in readings? So sometimes when I'm giving a reading, and I've talked about this before, when I give a reading to somebody, especially if it's the first time they're with me or they haven't had a reading with me in a while, I usually kind of give them my little spiel about what I don't and do with my readings. And so it's always about giving clarity, insight, and practical steps. So no like the future set in stone and here's what's going to happen. No like, oh, you're going to have to come back and see me, or oh, you're going to have to buy this from me to get this result. I don't do any of that with my readings. Partly personal ethics, partly just I don't want to focus on that. So I'm not a retailer. Like I say, there are people out there who they do upsells during their readings for, you know, candles, oils, spell services, teas, all that stuff. And that in of itself, upselling is not an indicator of whether or not a reader is being, scammy or trying to create dependency. Um, that is just, like I've said before, this is when you've been reading for a while, certain themes come up a lot and they repeat. Like, so sometimes comes in waves. So sometimes I will have entire days where people will come to me and it's all romance questions, or even if it's not like a specific thing, they'll kind of like giggle and blush a little bit and be like, yeah, I want to know about my love life. And it's like, okay. And like, but then I won't hear any questions about that for a while. And then like it switches to like career tends to be the focus. And then it's problem solving, it's choices. And then like it'll repeat back to romance and then career. And like, so it comes in waves. Um, and so readers who also make products, or create artwork and things of that nature, a lot of times they will choose what to create next based on these themes that they see come up a lot because it's something that they know that people are looking for and need. Me, I hate retail, so I am not going to create candles and teas and all those things. It's not that I don't make these things, it's that when I make them for myself or for my household. I hate retail. Is just where I am. I have worked metaphysical retail. I don't like it. It's not my favorite place to be. Entirely too much overhead, first and foremost, is my instant business. Yeah, not gonna go there. Um, so that oven by itself will rule me out. But anyway, the point is, um, just because somebody offers those doesn't mean that they are trying to create that dependency. It's more of offerings that are there. Uh, but when you do kind of get into that more scammy, where it's like, oh, well, you have to come to me. You have to, like, you're going to need to follow up with me this much, or I have this candle and you're going to have to come to me because I'm the only one who makes these and only these here. And they kind of like try to scare you away from uh, other practitioners and other spiritual services and providers. That's usually the red flag. Get out of there. Um, so for me, when I'm doing readings, like as soon as I catch a hint of somebody wanting me to fix it or wanting me to decide or wanting the cards to give them all the answers and solutions, that's usually where I draw that line because the entire point, again, is to get clarity. The cards, that is my approach to using the cards. It's about getting clarity, it's about getting some insights, perspective, um, helping you to kind of get your own thoughts in order. So as somebody who's squirrel brain, that's part of why I fell in love with tarot way back in my teen years, was because I was just undiagnosed squirrel brained ADHD or, and tarot was giving me this way to like make me slow down, make me really kind of turn inwards and really think and reflect and consider possibilities and organize my thoughts. And so that is how my tarot readings usually go. It's about trying to help you organize things, get that clarity, um, take that time out from the chaos of the world. And So for me, guidance really is based on that. It's okay, here's what we're seeing here. Okay, let's talk this out. Okay, that needs to be your next step. That is the focus because multiple things will usually come up in a reading, especially if it's a longer session, if there's more cards involved, or if we did multiple spreads. Um, you can end up with a lot of different guidance points and possibilities of actions you can take. So it's usually like, let me lay out the cards, let me see, we'll talk about with Sarah, and then afterwards, they'll usually give me a little bit of information about what resonated, what didn't, what stood out, what questions they still have, and then that kind of helps me narrow down, like, okay, here's your action items, and like try to limit it no more than three. What are the three big things I need you to focus on? And you can ask anybody who's had a reading with me. I will repeat those multiple times, multiple ways. That's part of my my teacher training was like repeat it and check for understanding multiple times. Um, and it's just a really good way to help reinforce, like, don't walk away without remembering you need to do this. This is the number one. And so that's that guidance. Like, there should not be anything involved in that guidance that requires them to come back and see me. I will always say, stay in touch, let me know how it goes because I am just legitimately curious. um, sometimes just nosy, but also kind of want that feedback. Want to know, like, oh, that's where that was going. Okay, I see. Or ooh, that's what you did with that advice. Got it. So some of it's that, but I don't ever have my guidance be stipulated with you must check with me or you have to come back or let's schedule the next session. Um, Now, if somebody asks me where I'll be next or if they can set up things, absolutely. I will always have, like anywhere I do readings, especially for events, I will always have QR codes for my booking links and things like that. Uh, but that's not something that I push personally because I don't want to create that dependency where they feel like they must come to me or they must come back to the cards or that's not what the cards are for. That is not the intention. I get rubbed the wrong way when people are like that with me and I go for a reading, especially if they don't know that I am myself a tarot reader or didn't pick up on it. Um, Most tarot readers I've gone to where I've never revealed that I read tarot, like they usually they're usually like, "Why did you come here for a reading with me?" Because within like 5 seconds of laying down the cards, like they already know that I know. um, they just pick up on it. It's great. I love it. First time that happened, I was like, "Oh, okay, she knows." But that's usually that biggest thing is don't give the impression that you have to consult tarot. I will praise tarot and all the reasons. People like middle of a reading or at the end of a reading with me, I'll be like, "This is why I love tarot," because they'll say something, and it's like, "Yeah, that exactly." But I won't ever position tarot as a thing that you must do. I am just like any aspect of spiritual practice, religious practice, anything like that. It's okay to step away from it and come back to it, and I will always maintain that. Um, Sometimes people who don't get readings or don't do their own readings, that is kind of the approach. They will get a reading because they need it in the moment, and then years may go by before they feel another need for a session or a reading, whether that's with me or somebody else. Um, and so that's why the approach is guidance versus dependency. So again, where I draw that line between guidance and dependency in readings is mainly just picking up on that if I can feel the other person is or could develop a reliancy on a reading, steering them toward, hey, don't come, don't go chasing down more of this. Do these steps before you try to get more guidance. Um, because this is the guidance and it's going to keep telling you that. I've had people come to me who see other readers, like they'll see me at an event and they'll be like, oh, let me get a reading. And they'll joke because there'll be a reader that they go to all the time and they're always telling them the same thing every single time. And I'm like, well, did you do the thing? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's why the message keeps repeating, even though I'm a different reader. So yeah, so that's that big that big difference between guidance and dependency is, are they relying too much on the reading and not doing the work, or are they really coming to just get that clarity? Um, Focus on clarity first and foremost, and don't ever leave the impression that it's necessary to keep coming back. Um, by all means, you can encourage, especially if you are a fellow tarot reader and you're trying to run a business, like, it's okay to encourage and be like, yeah, come back to see me anytime. Um, but don't give that impression that they must come back and see you, or that you are the only one who can do this reading for them. Because first and foremost, we know that's not true. So honesty, um, just healthy relationship dynamics is how you prevent dependency in readings. All right. So I think I have like dragged that question through as many reiterations of answering it as I can. So we're going to move on. A reminder again that if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to stick with what is on my list here. Ooh. Okay. This question is, what's a tarot myth you used to believe but no longer do? So, I used to believe that you had to read reversals. Had to. Absolutely had to. I struggled with understanding what was and wasn't reversals because everybody's system's so different and styles are so different and approaches are so different. But that they had to be read, that you had to have the cards flipped one way or the other, and that determined what the meaning of that card was. As far as learning the tarot, I still 100% maintain that if you are learning, learn the reversals, explore various readers' approaches to reversals 100%, because it helps you to understand the archetypes of the cards. You'll find the ones you agree with and the ones that you don't. For example, I was reading, it's one of the newer books by Teresa Reed, and I think it's Twist Your Fate. It's the one where she mixes astrology and tarot. And I did not pick this up for the tarot part itself. I picked it up mainly because that particular book is very focused on career and work and business. Specific with astrology, and anyone who knows me knows I nerd out on astrology, so I was really curious for her take on that, and to see how she blends it with the tarot. But there's a good chunk of the tarot section that is nothing but her providing uh, the card meanings, and to me, I'm like, most of the time with books, I ignore all that. I'll ignore the reversals, all that stuff. If it's just the super basic meanings. I did really appreciate that in that book, though, she does really, and this is where that learning aspect comes in. This is why I do encourage you to still learn reversals, even though I personally don't use them. Um, is because as she made these are very like straightforward, basic, like in the book, here's the meanings, right? But she tailors it specifically to that topic area of dealing with career, work, the people you work with, dynamics that would be involved, all those things. And it had the upright meaning and a reverse meaning. And of course, I roll my eyes at it, but still, I enjoyed actually reading through those, even though I normally skip those things in books these days. I actually enjoyed it, um, because it's always fun to see a different reader's take and approach to things. And having that spin on reversals and seeing how sometimes for some cards, she very much has it as almost like a polar opposite, and then other ones it's like it's just a slight nuance, and then still other ones the reversal is like, just a flavor. It's a little, it's like a spin on the meaning, and so it's really interesting to see those. And so this is why, again, if you're in your first forays of learning tarot, those first, I'd say, like 5 years of learning tarot, by all means, study reversals, work with reversals, test them out, find your own meanings. That is exactly how I did it for my first few years, and then I started to realize I don't really do much with reversals. I've said this in previous responses that to other questions, that with those reversals, it's if I'm doing a reading and something about the fact that a card came out facing a certain way like stands out to me, then that might become part of my interpretation. Like I might recognize it as being challenged, or um, that particular archetype being in a challenge state or in a reverse state. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's I won't call it a reversal because ultimately when I'm doing reads, oh no, the cat knocked something down. What you knocked down? Oh, it's fine. Okay, everything's working. I thought for sure that was going to knock out the camera. All right. She knocked down a ball. It's okay though. It just made a lot and made a screen go blank for a second. It knocked the wire loose, but it's okay. The camera did not go loose. We're good. All right. So, all right. I'm gonna scoot back so the cat can sit in my lap, and maybe she'll stop knocking things down with her tail. Here, be like a baby. So, where was I? Reversals. Oh, so yeah. Sometimes when I'm reading, if it stands out to me as something, then I make a mental note of that. But I ultimately end up like flipping it all to face the other person so they can really get to see all the pretty artwork on the cards. Those who've never had a reading from me or seen my pictures from event readings, I always have like a minimum of 3 to 4 card decks to choose from. I try to rotate them out. I have my favorites that like it's really hard for me to rotate them out, but I do try to rotate them out. If I have like things that match a particular theme, I always try to have those as well. Like when we did the Summerween at the little treasure shop, I made sure to have my Halloween deck, even though it's kind of more like it's a kid friendly deck. I brought it anyway for the adults. But anyway, so that is a tarot myth that I don't believe. I don't believe that you have to read reversals. I don't believe that tarot cards even have reversals. I believe it is a learning device. It helps you out. Like I was saying, the first few years of learning, I really did learn those. And then over time, as I really started to get the understanding of these archetypes and kind of seeing in that more psychological, Jungian psychology kind of framework, um, that is when I stopped with reversals because the archetypes made sense without that. There's also, again, my approach and style tending to be more of an empowerment focus than anything else. So, again, there's that Sagittarius and Mars coming out. A little bit of cheerleader. Anyway, so I think it's a tarot. I categorize that as a myth that you have to read reversals or that tarot cards even have reverse meanings. I don't think they have reverse meanings. I think they just have meanings and messages, and it's all in context of the question, placement within a spread, uh, your personal, where you're at in life right now, your stages, your challenges, what you're going through, all those things. It's all nuance and complexity. And really, Pat, this is why you were on my lap. Stop knocking things down. You keep knocking things down, you're going to have to go away. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question before the cat finds something else to tear apart. Oh no. This question is hard. If I could only use one deck forever, what would it be and why? Oh my. That is so hard for me. Oh my goodness. There are so many pretty decks. I am so indecisive. This is where the Pisces Sun is going to come out hard. So I mean, there are some decks that I really, really love where the art is like really speaks to me. Like I know not everybody has their reasons for why they don't like the Lightseers deck. That one's definitely a huge favorite of mine. Not just because of the diversity, but because of the more, I'd say, modernized and more universal in terms of the symbolism that's involved. Um, So like it still ties all the same esoteric symbolism as the Rider-Waite-Smith decks, but also has that. But if I had to just use one deck forever, don't know that I would. Like, I love that deck so much, but it's not, and it comes to mind as one of the top contenders. But if I'm honest, the initial deck that popped in my head when I read this question, of using only one deck forever is my Dragon Tarot. It really is. I've joked before, if you've caught any of my earlier live streams or if you've just had conversations with me, I joke because Matt Oren will talk about the Dragon Tarot because it was his first deck. And when he tells a story about it, he kind of pokes a little fun at it. And for me, that was my second deck. My first deck was, I think it was just called like Angel Tarot. There's so many Angel Tarots out there that I could not tell you which one it was unless I saw it. If I saw it, I could tell you. I no longer have that particular deck anymore. It was one of those giveaways. Like in hindsight, I wish I didn't. But at the time, it was necessary. So it is. It's one of those. Is what it is. Got to let it go. And that first deck definitely helped me with falling in love with tarot, but I struggled with really learning it. And so when I decided, okay, I want to get a new tarot deck, I put more thought behind it. I was like, okay, I want something I'm drawn to. I want something with pretty artwork. I want something that, makes me eager to learn. And so the Dragon Tarot was the deck I ended up picking of the selection. This was back when Borders was still a thing. Like Barnes and Noble. Like I don't even know if I'd ever even heard Barnes and Noble. We had Borders. And there were a few other bookstore chains at the time. So that was a Borders purchase. And so that deck, it's not necessarily intuitive for everybody, but for me, like I really loved it. Part of it is because dragons, but they're not. I don't think of them as being like overly mystical, overly fancy. Like there's no weird like this really super sexed up maiden and this really crafty giant dragon. Like it's just straight the dragons. And like I don't know, the deck speaks to me. And it was where I first started to get more intuitive and more psychic. And I know I don't tend to use the term psychic, but my readings took on that flavor. It really forced me, because at that time I didn't study books. Time on internet was limited with 25 or what is it, like 28K modem dial up, I think it was. It was slow, so you didn't want to waste your time on just reading up 78 different card meanings, and I did not have specific books on tarot. Trying to learn spreads the way that people were teaching it online, like I still to this day do not. I don't think I own a book specifically on tarot spreads. Um, I feel 90% certain that I'm not lying about that. I have a lot of unread books, and some of them are stacked up. So, yeah, there's a 10% chance that there could be a book that is predominantly spreads, but I don't have that because that Dragon Tarot deck was the one that really taught me um, to go beyond those little cutesy keyword buzzword meanings. Really think about it, try to put the cards in context. So I just experimented. I created my own spreads based on what my question was, because sure, the booklet came with, little mini suggestions, and I'd had some spreads from, that I'd written down from time online or suggestions that were made to me. And I tinkered with them and I tried them, but at the end of the day, the spreads that were the most impactful, the most accurate, were the ones that I created for myself in the moment based on the information that I wanted to know. So what was my question? Not what spread do I have that might vaguely help me to answer this question? It was what do I want to know and lay out the cards accordingly. So for me, that Dragon Tarot really kicked up my learning significantly. And it was really interesting to me years later when I finally did take a tarot course from an actual tarot, like long established tarot reader. And, everything she was teaching, there was nothing she was teaching that I didn't already know myself and that I hadn't already figured out on my own in those early years. My Dragon Tarot deck, the original copy that I had accidentally gotten sold in a during a rough patch in my life, and I had to. It was like a kind of like a yard sale type. It was like an indoor yard sale because I was living in an apartment complex and we weren't allowed to do outdoor yard sales. Um, and I had it. I At the time it was tucked away in a shelf and I missed it when I cleared the shelf of the things I didn't want sold. Um, and so by the time I realized that it was in there, it was already too late. The sale had already been made, and they'd already walked away. So it was one of those too late to go back. And I was really sad and disappointed, but I was like, you know what? I have to let the stuff go. And I did let a lot of stuff go from that period. Um, but years later, like throughout those years, it was I still miss that deck. I miss that deck. I miss that deck. So you know what? I went and purchased it again. um, and so I do still regularly use my Dragon Tarot deck. So I feel like, to your question, if I could only use one deck forever, what would it be and why? It would be that Dragon Tarot deck. Um, Not just because it was so instrumental in me leading me in my tarot journey from the beginning to the present, but just because I spent a few years without it in my life and missed it that much that I had to get it back. Um, so I think that's my forever deck. That is the deck that, even if I don't necessarily, it's not off that often in the rotation for my events. It's one of those, like, if I had to get rid of all the other ones, that's going to be the one that's with me forever. Um, all right, so let's see. There we go. Okay, so I've got one more of these questions. So I'll go ahead because we've got some time. So I will answer this. What's a question you wish more clients would ask? Mm, I think for me, especially because I am so focused on empowerment, um, and also, interfaith and providing spiritual services in like a chaplain capacity. Um, I kind of wish there would be more questions specifically to spirituality. Um, so not necessarily love, not necessarily career, not necessarily, this or that, not necessarily, what's my purpose, or, I'm always happy for the what's my next step? Like what's the most important thing I need to focus on right now? Like those, I love those questions. But definitely I wish there would be more spirituality focused, whether it's framed as religious or spiritual or just otherwise, just that part, or spiritual health, like not just physical health, not just mental and emotional health. I want some more spiritual elements to it. Um, so not necessarily a specific question comes to mind because I think it would really depend on where they're at within their own paths, and the other things going on in their lives. But I really do wish more clients would ask questions in that kind of way. Are we done? Have we gotten exhausted? Okay, the cat has gotten exhausted from being pet. She's now overstimulated. So now hopefully she will stop knocking down all my things. No, don't you come back over here to knock down my thing. No, no. Okay, she's running off. All right. Um, but yeah, I kind of do wish there would be a little bit more focus on that. I've talked before about how part of why I do what I do and why my emphasis, despite, like, again, for anybody who doesn't already know, my background includes military medicine, healthcare, um, psychology, science, earth science. Oh my goodness, space science is my jam. Planetary sciences. Oh, I will nerd out forever. You will lose me like in a conversation. Planetary sciences come up if like that will be the rest of the day is just all space science. So you got to be careful. That is my nerdy passion. Teaching, education, like academic teaching, that is. And so that is where the core of my professional training and education and experience are within these fields. And so for me to start up a business that is entirely focused on spiritual health and wellness has made people within my life kind of raise an eyebrow, like, where did that come from? Now, some people who really know me were just like, yeah, that tracks. But those who were familiar with my background, but not that aspect of it, my religious and spiritual aspects, they definitely kind of like, head swivel, like, what? um, but like, so my reason for this is because in all of my training, in all of my education, in all of my work experiences within each of these fields, the one common thing that I notice today that is still absent or lacking or just grossly misunderstood is our spiritual health and well-being and how that applies. Um, our our within medicine and healthcare, it's focused almost entirely on physical health. Um, and they are starting to understand the importance of, they're finally implementing and understanding the importance of mental, emotional, behavioral health within that healthcare. Like I was sitting here, I just happened to look down, like I have a health psychology textbook right in front of me. And so it's like, oh no, the ball found the rest of its way to the floor. Um, hope it's okay. That one is breakable. Anyway, so that spiritual side of it doesn't even factor in. Like, yes, you might, like, a question might come up when you're in your doctor's office about like religious or spiritual paths and affiliations. But that's less anything involved in your healthcare and more about like if they need to bring in a chaplain. That's basically the entire purpose of that. Um, and then on the psychology sides of things, the mental health practitioners, and I want to be very clear, I am not talking about your life coaches. Anybody who would fall under that life coach, like I myself as an empowerment guide fall under that life coach. I'm not talking about us. There are some who are trained who believe that they are trained in mental health, and it's like, no, you are not. If that is the entirety of your training is as a life coach, I promise you, you are not qualified as a mental health provider. Um, that would be like somebody taking an aromatherapy class and saying that they are as trained and qualified as an MD or a surgeon. No, no, you are not. No. So, I'm explicitly talking about those within the mental health field. So this is our psychologists, our psychiatrists, our um, mental health counselors and therapists who are regulated in specific trainings that are science backed. Um, they are your mental health providers. So within our mental health, we see this addresses our emotional, our psychological, our mental, and behavioral. So psychological covers the mental, emotional, behavioral. And now within those, so again, physical health care is finally starting to see how that bleeds into the physical health. And within the mental health, they obviously know how physical health can affect the mental health. And they also know how spiritual health does. Now, there's still some struggles there because not everybody who's trained within mental health gets training in religious studies. So while it factors in, they are heavily reliant on the person that they're providing therapy services to inform them of their spiritual practices and those things. This is why I tell people, like, if you are within witchcraft and pagan traditions or any religious tradition where your spiritual practices sound entirely woo woo and bonkers to anybody who's outside of these practices, still go to a qualified mental health therapist, please, because they are trained to listen to you, to put that into context. They are not going to write down that you are delusional or schizophrenic or hallucinating when you explain your experiences. They're going to ask you questions to help clarify between spiritual experiences and actual psychological states that are calls for alarm. They are not going to immediately write you down for those things. So bringing that back. So the spiritual health aspects, getting those, that's getting woven in. But again, that still leaves the actual spiritual health itself to only the religious leaders. So we're talking ministers, reverends, pastors. Did I say ministers already? Oh my goodness, my poor squirrel brain. The cat meowed and messed me all up. So we need to be able to actually understand spiritual health beyond just mainstream religious rabbis, monks, priesthoods, name it, nuns even. So we need to be able to think beyond the mainstream paths in terms of spiritual health, because those are religious affiliations, and while religious affiliations are 100% part of spiritual health, they impact it, whether it's your current religious affiliations or prior ones, or what you were born into and raised with, or the society that you're in the predominant religious affiliation within that society. All of those impact your spiritual health. But your spiritual health itself is more than religion. I will always push against anybody who says that they are non-spiritual or, completely and utterly secular, because it, again, I've said it before, that is like saying that, um, like you don't need to go see a doctor because you don't have physical health. Like, you have physical health. You have a physical body. So regardless of what your personal worldviews are, it still would fall under spiritual health. So even if you don't believe in souls and spirits, even if you don't believe in spiritual experiences or anything like that, regardless of what your individual spiritual beliefs or non-beliefs are, you still possess spiritual health. It is a component of you as a human being, as a living entity. And so for me, I really do wish more clients would be asking questions that are more focused on that spiritual health aspect, so that they can get more guidance and suggestions that are tailored to them, that aren't coming to them from somebody who might have I don't really like to use the word ulterior motive, because that implies like a negative intent. But if the only places you're getting your spiritual guidance from, in terms of outside sources, are those who need you to keep showing up to church or temple every week, or needs you to purchase their products, or needs you to enroll in their programs, if those are the only people you're ever getting your spiritual, outside spiritual guidance from, that to me is concerning. I would really, again, this is my bias as somebody who is so focused on spiritual health, and empowering individuals in their spirituality. And again, that more chaplain like approach to her services, that is something I really wish more people would ask questions about. Okay. So I again managed to drag that question out. So we only got to, we're already past the my timer showing we're past the hour mark. Well, no, it's almost an hour mark. 59 minutes exactly. Okay, so about the hour mark. And I only answered 4 questions. So definitely drag these questions through every possible iteration of the answers for today. So we're gonna end it there. Let me go ahead and get into our outro. Okay, so updates for you guys. My next in-person tarot appearance is here in Newark, Delaware. I'll be at the Little Treasure Shop on Saturday, August 8th. I'll be there 11:30 to 5 p.m., which I believe is closing time. So I'll be there from roughly opening to closing. The store technically opens at 11 o'clock, but I usually can't get in there before 11, so it usually takes me about 20 to 30 minutes to get the space fully set up. For anybody who hasn't been there before, everything is kind of like tucked away in a corner when I'm not there, and then it's all pulled out and set up to be a special space for you every time I come in. So it takes me usually about 20 to 30 minutes to get that space fully set up. So instead of it starting at 11, I just have it to 11:30. Anyway, so that is this Saturday. Again, if you missed the news over the last couple weeks, the Hela story events after Ragnarök, according to Loki's daughter, that is a novel that I originally wrote in 2011, has been republished. Since I started this stream out talking about AI, I will go ahead and put it out there that no AI was involved in the writing or editing of this story. There wasn't AI to be involved when it was first written. And this re-editing second edition that just came out, I did not use AI whatsoever for the writing or editing process, or anything involved in it. So please definitely check that out. This is the new cover, so if you see this cover, then you know you're looking at the right book. So literally, like, just looking up Hela's story and then look for this cover, that is me. I really am proud of this story, so I'm going to keep promoting it. It's currently only available on Amazon, but I will talk about more things as we get later into the year about trying to expand where else you can find it. Also, again, behind the scenes, I'm working on my Empowered Readings course. If you haven't already, make sure you do the, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and skip us into reminders. So that Empowered Readings course is really about kind of my approach to doing tarot readings. So definitely, if you haven't already, you want to enroll in that Tarot 101 with Evelyn Rose, which gives, again, even if you already know tarot, you've been doing readings, but you're curious about my approach, make sure you take this course just so you can get a feel for my approach to tarot, or my basic approach to tarot. That way you're already ready with that base knowledge, because all the information that's in that Tarot 101 does not get repeated in the Empowered Tarot course. The Empowered Readings course assumes you already know how to read tarot, or if you're going to use it, not tarot specific, if you're, want to see how to use my approach in other forms of divination, I still assume that you know these fundamentals. So definitely please make sure you enroll in that Tarot 101. It is free for that reason, so that you can get a taste of it, you can get an idea of it, and you have that foundational knowledge ready for that Empowered Readings course. When you enroll in that course, you also are automatically subscribed to the newsletter. So please make sure that you do that. And before I forget, one other reminder, because we are in August now, so I need to remember to be mentioning this. I talked about this before, that Awakened Wisdom Oracle deck. There is an Awakened Lifestyle Expo that's going to be out in California later this month. I believe it's a 2-day event, and it is the first 1,000 people to go through will get like this bag with all these different goodies in it, and one of those goodies is this Oracle deck. So you can't buy it anywhere. It's exclusive to this event. Myself and 43 other spiritual leaders, teachers, sharers of insights and wisdom, we created an oracle card. So it comes with a kind of like a reflection, journaling prompts, and those kinds of things on there. So we each individually made our own. Now the image of the card, if you didn't catch it when I talked about it before, there was this weird thing where they were trying to give me like awkward AI elbows. So the photograph itself is real. The headshot of me is real. That is not the AI version. It has my real elbows. They did fix it. It was from a photograph that was taken by my friend Matanda, who's also on Twitch, Tendercia, and then the background, however, was added by the Awakened lifestyle staff. So to my knowledge, that is just literally them just taking the headshot, removing the background, and laying this background on it. I don't know whether or not AI was involved in that. Given that there were AI elbows, I would not be surprised. So I will not try to claim that this did not involve AI, because I don't know that to be true. But in terms of my headshot, in terms of the information that I had them place on the back of the card for me, for my card, all of that is authentic and real. So definitely, if you are in the California area, if you're planning or thinking about attending that Awaken Lifestyle Expo, make sure that you are one of the first 1,000 people in there, so you can get this deck along with all the other freebies that they are giving out to those first 1,000 guests. All right. And then, of course, ending this on your next steps. If there's only one thing you do right now in this moment, please definitely make sure that you subscribe to the newsletter. The Starlight Circle is my monthly newsletter. It always includes some exclusive content, little blurbs about any upcoming events, where I'll be, any major important updates, exclusive discounts or sales happening, or other promotions. Pretty much anything that you need to know and stay up on, I include in there. So please make sure to sign up for that. It is the best way to stay up to date on anything I've got going on. And I only touch your inbox once a month. That said, that is your next step for today, is to become a Moonbeam by subscribing to that newsletter. I will see you here again next week at Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you've been following along, you know that every other Monday I seem to be getting a little bit behind. So we're gonna give it one more try to see if next Monday will work. Otherwise, we might have to switch hours. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel posts. The community posts are where, if I'm running behind or if I need to cancel or postpone for any reason, I usually post it there. So if you don't see me live at 1 p.m. Eastern on next Monday, take a look and see if there's a post there, and that will let you know whether or not I'll be going live. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That makes sure that you know exactly when I am live. It will send you a notification, however you have your notification set up, whether that's on your phone or computer. And if you are watching the replay on YouTube, or please make sure to like or comment below. Helps you and others to find more videos like this. And thank you so, so much for watching and being here, whether you were here with me live or through the replay. And as always, keep radiating hope into the world.